also application of differential equations. What you're going to see, how differential equations is applied in some situation. Because you know physics, I have taken the physics one. Otherwise, you can use it in the operational research and commerce. So many applications are there. Because you are familiar with physics, I took the applications in mechanical vibrations. You are familiar with this, right? Each day, we encounter many types of mechanical vibrations. The bouncing motion of an automobile due to the bumps and the cracks in the pavement. For example, you are moving in the car, okay, and there is some up downs in the road. So your car, there's a bump. If you are sitting inside the car, you will feel the bump. Why? The road is not smooth, no? There is a bump over in the road. That is felt in your car also. The vibrations of a bridge caused by the traffic and wind. For example, the bridge is hanging bridge is there. When car moves, there will be vibration of the bridge. Even in the normal concrete bridge also, you will feel the vibrations, right? Some sort of sound or something comes out, right? Even a train moving in the moving above the bridge also, you feel that vibrations, right? So vibration of the bridge caused by the traffic and the wind are some common examples. To study mechanical vibrations, we shall start with simple mechanical system, right? Consisting of a coil spring suspended from a rigid support with a mass M attached to the end of the spring. To analyze this spring mass system, you need to recall two laws of physics. That is, one is the Hooke's law and another one is the Newton's second law of motion. What is Hooke's law? It is given by Robert Hooke in 1635-1703, right? He was born in 1635 and died in 1703. An English physicist. He published books known as the Hooke's law, right, in 1658, right? The law states that the spring exerts a restoring force opposite to the direction of elongation of the spring and with a magnitude directly proportional to the amount of elongation. That is, when it is suspended, because of the mass, it is getting expanded, right? The spring expands. And there is a restoring force. It should come back to the equilibrium position. That restoring force is nothing but directly proportional to the how much it is elongated. That is directly proportional to this length. That is, the spring exerts a restoring force F, whose magnitude is Ks, where what is our S? S is nothing but the amount of elongation, how much it is getting expanded. And K is a positive number, it's greater than 0 because we have taken K into S, it is a negative direction. So there should be one minus here. So K should be naturally positive. The spring constant, what is that? K is known as a spring constant. For example, if a 20 kg weight stretches a spring half mass, what is the mass of the spring is half, right? Then Hooke's law gives that, what is that? Your weight is given, weight of the spring, that is 20 kgs. And then stretch, how much it is stretching? Half meter. I'm so sorry, I told mass. It is stretched to half meters, right? The stretching is a half meter. Then Hooke's law gives this. That is F, that is 20 equal to how much it is getting stretched. It is directly proportional to K into S. Okay, that stretch is directly proportional to K into S. So K, how much it is getting stretched? It is half, it is given, S is half meters, right? So you'll get K, the spring constant is 20 into 2, that is 40 kilogram per meter, I'm so sorry, 40 kilogram per meter. Newton's second law enables us to formulate the equations of motion for a moving body. So here simply one example is given where the weight is in the spring, there is a weight hanged, okay, because of that weight the spring stretches and it is stretching to half meters, right? Because of that formula is F is directly proportional to K into S. F is directly proportional to S, therefore F equal to K into S. So what is K? We don't know. S is given as half meter, so we have taken as half, and it is given the weight is 20, that is our force, so 20 into 2, 40 kg per meter. And the Newton's second law enables us to formulate the equations of motion for a moving body. When mass remains constant, when you take mass as constant, this law can be expressed as mass into acceleration, that is d square x by dt square, that is ma is nothing but our force. It's a function of t because time, okay, it is a function of x, how much the displacement takes place, and dx by dt. Because acceleration is there, no? So you are getting dx by dt. So a force is a function of t, x, and dx by dt. We'll see the figure. In the figure, there is no weight here. Figure 1, there is no mass. Okay, spring is there. It is hanged. There is a ceiling. The spring is getting hanged. Okay, that thing is there. So the length of the original position is L. Now a mass is attached to the spring. Because of the mass, the original position now expands. The spring expands, stretches. Okay, it is stretching to extra length L. So this stretching, no, the original was L. The smallest is stretching of the string due to the mass hanged. Right? Now, because the mass is there, it will go up, down motion about the equilibrium position, and I've written this black line. No, this is our equilibrium position. It goes up above the equilibrium position, goes down below the equilibrium position, right? X, it is going up, and X, it is going down also. So that is, we can take, when it goes in the upward motion, we can take it as minus X. When it goes in the downward motion, we can take it as plus X. This minus and plus indicates that it is in the opposite direction of the equilibrium position, right? We can take either of this as minus and this as plus, but convenient, we have taken as upward direction as minus X, downward direction as X, right? This is what. A first step in the analysis of the spring mass system is to choose a coordinate axis in which to represent the motion of the mass. Okay, let the spring have length capital L when hanging from its support, that is figure 1 we have seen, right? Let the mass M when attached to the elongation of the spring, and when it comes to rest, that is when it is in the equilibrium position by the spring, has been stretched by the length L. That is, we have seen the figure 2, right? Therefore, let's choose a vertical coordinate axis passing through the spring, that is upward and downward direction. With the origin at the equilibrium position of the mass, origin can be taken as the 0, right? And minus X in the negative direction, that is upward direction, plus X in the positive direction, right? So origin, what is that? Equilibrium is the origin. Let X denote the displacement of the mass from its equilibrium position, and it's positive when the mass is below its equilibrium position. That is figure 3, you can see, right? We now consider various forces acting on mass. First force is there are 5 forces acting. The first force is the gravitational force, acceleration due to gravity. The force of gravity F1, okay, is a downward force with magnitude m into g. This we know, acceleration due to gravity is m into g, where g is the acceleration due to gravity, hence F1 equal to mass into acceleration due to gravity. This is the gravity force, right? The force due to gravitation. Next is the restoring force, because it wants to come back to the original position. Okay, restoring force. The spring exerts a restoring force F2, whose magnitude is proportional to the elongation of the spring. This we have seen before also, right? And one example we have seen. From figure 3, you can see that the spring is stretched to X plus L. That is, it is nothing but equilibrium position and L is the stretching. So x plus L units beyond its natural length. We can see here the figure. Natural length is capital L, right? Yes. This is the natural length. L is because of the weight of the mass, and it is going x downward direction, away from the equilibrium position. So you can say that x plus L, it has stretched from figure 3, you can see, right? So we can see that it is x plus L, it has stretched, and it is proportional to 4. F2 is proportional to x plus L. That you can write F2 equal to some constant times x plus L. Constant is nothing but the spring constant. So F is proportional to x plus L. That is F equal to K times x plus L, where K is known as the spring. So from the figure 3, you see that the spring is stretched to x plus L units beyond its natural length. Hence, the magnitude of F2 is K times x plus L, where K is a spring constant. Since the spring pulls upward, we have, in the upward direction, we have taken minus, no? F equal to minus K times x plus L. When x is 0, that is, when the system is at equilibrium, the force of gravity and the force due to the spring balance each other. Therefore, mg equal to KL, okay, and F2 be expressed as F2 equal to minus Kx minus mg. What is KL? KL is nothing but our mg here. K into x, K into L. K into L is mg. So when in equilibrium position, the force due to the spring balance, they both balance with each other, right? So F2 equal to, finally we got F2 equal to minus Kx minus mg. Now next is a damping force. What is a damping force? Damping force, there is a damping or frictional force F3 acting on the mass. For example, this force may be air resistance or friction due to the shock absorbed. So beyond this force, we have seen the gravitational force and the upward direction, that is in the restoring force. So one more force is known as a damping force. That is nothing but the friction. The air also acts as a friction, no, for the spring balance. That is known as air resistance or friction due to the shock absorber. It's moving up and down, no, the shock absorber. In either case, we assume that the damping force is proportional to magnitude of velocity of the mass, right? But it is in the opposite direction. Friction, no, it is in the opposite direction. That's why we have written minus here. F3, that is the damping force, equal to minus C, and this is proportional to velocity, that is dx by dt. C is greater than 0, where C is called the damping constant given in its mass per time. Right now, the external force, one more force is the external force. As I discussed before, there will be 5 forces acting. Any external forces acting on the mass, for example, magnitude force, you can call it as magnetic force, or forces exerted on a car by bump in the pavement. Okay, not only the car is moving, even because of the bump also some force is there. So will be denoted by F4 equal to Ft. Let us assume that these forces depend only on time and not on the location of mass or its velocity, because already we have taken the mass and velocity. So this force is independent of mass and velocity, right? The new force we are introducing, right? Now we go to the total force. There are 5 forces, no? F acting on the mass M. The sum of, sorry, not 5, the sum of 4 forces, that is F1, F2, F3 and F4. Okay, it's 4 forces acting on the spring. That is, F is a function of T, X and dx by dt. It's a function of T and displacement and also the velocity, that is dx by dt force. That is, the first force is a gravitational force, mg, and next is the next force what we have seen was force due to the elongation, right? That is the second force. Second force is due to the elongation of the spring, that is restoring force, right? Second, we have seen restoring force and then the damping force and the external force. There are 4 forces. So the force is due to the elongation. This is kx minus kx minus mg. This is damping force minus c into dx by dt, and the external force f of t, right? So we will be getting here mg gets cancelled here, and all the leaving ft, you can take others to the right hand side, sorry, left hand side. M into d square x by dt square plus c into dx by dt plus kx equal to f of t. That is equation 1. When c is 0, we say that the system is undamped. Therefore, it is, otherwise it is damped. If c is not 0, it is damped. That is, damping is nothing but the frictional force, right? When there is no friction, absolutely zero friction, it is undamped. When f of t equal to 0, we call the motion to be free. Means it keeps on moving. There is no external force acting, no. It keeps on moving. Otherwise, the motion is forced. Some force is acting on the spring, right? Undamped free vibrations. We are going to see only undamped free vibrations for our application of the differential equation. Let us begin with a simple system in which c is 0 and is free, f of t equal to 0. In this, the equation becomes, when c is 0 and f of t is 0, this is the equation, no? Here, equation 1. When c is 0, that completely becomes 0, right? We are left with m d square x by dt square kx, and f of t also we have taken as 0, no external force, right? So the equation becomes m d square x by dt square plus kx equal to 0. On solving this equation 2, we get, it's normal differential equation, right? You get the CF, and there is no particular integral because it is equal to 0. So this is, you are getting as minus kx, no, d square, and you will get alpha plus or minus I beta form. You will get this is alpha is 0 and beta is k by m, right? If you solve it, you will get x equal to a cos omega 0 t plus b sine omega 0 into t, where omega square is k by m. Okay, what is omega square? It is k by m. Hence, here the omega naught square, right? Everywhere omega naught. Omega naught is called the angular frequency for a particular problem. The constant a and b determine, that is using the initial condition, you can find a and b. If you take a as r cos delta, b has r sin delta, then a cos of a minus b is what? Cos a cos b plus sin a sin b. You are going to use this formula, r cos of omega naught t minus delta, that is cos a minus b, cos a cos b plus sin a sin b. Using this formula, r cos omega naught t is cos delta plus r sin omega naught t into sin delta. This is what we are going to use. What is our r? Okay, and cos omega naught t. Okay, what is a? A we have taken as r cos delta. So r cos delta can be taken as a, r sin delta is b. So this equation reduces to a cos omega naught into t plus b sin omega naught into t. This we can name it as equation 4, where r and delta are constants. Now our x becomes, what is our x? X, right? X is what? A cos omega naught into t plus b sin omega naught into t. That is reduced to very simple. That is what we have seen. Okay, that is nothing but r cos of omega naught t minus delta. So it is reduces to r cos omega naught t minus delta. This is equation 4. Using equation 4 we got this. So what is r? R is nothing but square root of a square plus b square, and tan delta is a by b. Using this. Okay, using this. Cos square delta plus sin square delta is 1, no? We'll get a square. Okay, r value will be getting here. And sin delta by cos delta will be, okay, tan delta. That is a by b. I think b by a, right? There's some mistake. I think it should be b by a, right? Sin by cos, no? Sin is b by a. Sorry, it should be b by a. Because of the periodic character of the cosine function is periodic, right? So the equation 5 represents a periodic motion, up and down motion. This is known as a simple harmonic motion of period t, where t is nothing but, you know, the period of a simple harmonic period of the simple harmonic motion is 2 pi by omega naught. What is our omega naught? K by m. So you'll get square root of k by m. So 2 pi into m by k, the whole to the power of half. We have written omega naught equal to, here we have written, yes, here omega naught square is k by m, right? Omega naught square is k by m. That is what we are using. So omega naught, using that. So modulus of cos omega naught t minus delta is 1, always it is 1, right? Hence x always lies between plus or minus 1. Okay, because we are having here, no? Here. This is always, no, it can't be more than 1. Maximum is 1. So it is lesser than or equal to 1. Therefore, what you are getting is x is plus or minus r. Okay, the maximum displacement occurs when omega naught t minus delta is 0, plus or minus pi, plus or minus 2 pi, and so on. The constant r and delta are the amplitude, or this amplitude, delta is the phase angle of the motion, respectively. In this case, the periodic motion does not tend to 0 as the time increases. A stretch of motion represent in this equation phi. Okay, I can just draw the figure like this, right? Can you see the graph? So in this graph, this is x displacement and this is t, okay, time. So using that xt graph, t is the time, here x-axis is t, y-axis is displacement x. You can see the cos. This is cos curve, right? From this r to this r, this is one period. Delta plus pi, here it is delta plus 2 pi. So minus delta by omega, where it touches x-axis. Okay, you can see the periodic motion. Figure 4 shows the periodic motion. Now we'll go to the question. Solve and interpret the initial value problem d square x by dt square plus 16x equal to 0 with the initial condition x of 0 is 10. One more initial condition is given. Here is dx by dt at t equal to 0 equal to 0. Now we have to solve this, and moreover you have to interpret using that periodic simple harmonic motion. The problem is equivalent to pulling a mass on a spring, means it is going downward direction 10 units below the equilibrium position. Why it is x of 0, here it is given. X of 0 is 10, equilibrium position, right? When it is 0, it is 10. So, the position is considered 10 units below the equilibrium position. That's why we have to get this. The problem is equivalent to pulling a mass on a spring down 10 units below the equilibrium position. That is x of 0 is 10 we are having, no? So it is 10 units below the equilibrium position. This position is considered as initial position, that is t equal to 0. At this position, the system is at rest, and then mass is released, okay, to cause motion in the spring. Now you release the mass, it starts up and down motion. Now the solution of this differential equation is what? Normal differential equation, d square plus 16, right? D equal to square root of minus 16, that is plus or minus 4i. Alpha is 4, alpha is 0, beta is 4. So using that e power alpha x into c1 cos beta x plus c2 sin beta x, beta is 4, right? You solve the differential equation, CF you will get. So we got x of t is something. Auxiliary equation, this is how I'm just showing you how I got d square plus 16. D square is minus 16, d is plus or minus 4a, alpha is 0, beta equal to 4. That is how we got the solution. Now, in order to determine C1 and C2, we have to use the initial condition, that is x of 0 is 10. When means at time 0, it is stretched to 10. Displacement is 10. At time is 0. That is x of 10, that is when time is 0, x value is 10. C1 cos, when time is 0, no? So cos 0 and sine of this is also time is 0. So time is taken as 0, x is taken as 10. You get the value of C1, and another condition is given to find C2, that is dx by dt. You differentiate it, normal differentiation. So you'll get answer as minus 4 differentiation of cos t is minus 4 sin t, differentiation of sin t is 4 cos t. So this you will get dx by dt, and you can see the figure that is the spring. Okay, this is a spring and it has gone down. Okay, sorry, x equal to 0 is the equilibrium position. Can you see the x equal to 0? This is the equilibrium position, and when it goes down, 10 down, okay, below the equilibrium position, when it goes up, that is minus 10, upward direction is minus 10, it's going upward direction of the equilibrium position, then it comes back to the equilibrium position, then 10 it goes down, then it comes back to the equilibrium position, minus 10 it goes upwards. So up down motion of the spring. That is how we got it this as 10. We have seen in the previous class that dx by dt equal to minus 4 c1 sin 4t plus 4 c2 into cos 4t. We have to use the initial value condition in order to find c1 and c2. Okay, and applying the second initial value condition, dx by dt at t equal to 0 is 0, right? So you get the value of, you substitute to t equal to 0, dx by dt, differentiate it and then substitute to dx by dt equal to 0, we get the value of c2, that is also equal to 0. So using the value of c1 and c2, the equation 2, what is our equation 2? This is for equation 2, x of t equal to c1 sin cos 4t plus c2 cos 4 sin 4t, right? What is x of t? c1 cos 4t plus c2 sin 4t. So using the value of c1 and c2 here, what we get is c2 is 0, right? c1 is 10. So x of t equal to 10 cos 4t. The solution clearly shows that once the system is set in motion, it stays in motion with the mass bouncing back and forth 10 units on either side of the equilibrium position, that is x equal to 0. The period of motion is 2 pi by 4, that is pi by 2. What is the t equal to? We know 2 pi by omega naught. What is the formula? X equal to r cos omega naught t minus delta. Comparing with the given equation, for this particular equation, x equal to 10 cos 4t. Delta is 0. Therefore, omega naught t equal to 4t. Omega naught is 4. So, what is our period? T equal to 2 pi by omega naught. 2 pi by omega naught is what? 4. So, 2 pi by 4. That is, we got answer as pi by 2. Right? So, 2 pi by 4, that is pi by 2. Right? So, you can do the sum. A mass weighing 19.6 kilogram stretches a spring half m at time t equal to 0. The mass is released from a point 2 by 3 m below the equilibrium position with an upward velocity 4 by 3 meter per second. Determine the function x of t that describes the subsequent free motion. Okay, and Cauchy's linear equation. This is the assignment. Okay, assignment 3. Okay, this assignment 3. This is assignment 3. Right, this is given in your scanned copy. You can do assignment 3. Right, 3, 4, 5 are Legendre's method, and 1 and 2 is the Cauchy's method.